Discover the 4 incredible snacks seniors must eat before bed for unexpected vision transformation. Martha flipped through the latest health magazine, the bold headline catching her eye. An electrifying hope surged through her as she read about snacks that promised not just better health, but specifically enhanced vision, something Martha desperately needed. For weeks, she'd been struggling with her sight, once vibrant colors now reduced to dull shadows. The idea that snacks could improve her eyesight felt almost magical, yet she hesitated. How could something as simple as food pull her back from the creeping darkness? Her mind raced, filled with memories of bustling dinners, her grandchildren's laughter filling the air, and her once unshakable independence dwindling by the day. Now, each trip to the store was a gamble. Was that cantaloupe ripe? Was the red of the apples as deep as it used to be? Cowering under a veil of frustration, Martha felt the loneliness settling in her heart, deepening her isolation. Her family was busy, filled with their own worries, as they rushed in and out of her world, leaving her gasping for connection. A knot tightened in her stomach as she pictured her daughter, Jennifer, heaving from long hours at work, and her son, Nick, caught in the chaotic whirlwind of fatherhood. What if she became a burden? The thought wrapped around her like a noose, squeezing tighter with each passing day. They had their own lives to lead, after all. Perhaps they just didn't have the time to keep her anchored anymore. Maybe they had all drifted away. Just when the despair seemed insurmountable, that summer evening came. Martha overheard her granddaughter, Emily, chirping excitedly about eye health over FaceTime, revealing a vibrant world still existed around her. A stirring of hope ignited within Martha, spurring her to action. Could she reclaim a part of herself through simple changes in diet? The thought filled her with fierce determination as she plowed through research. But again the doubt returned. What if her family found her obsession absurd? What if they shunned her attempts to cook new, healthy snacks? Would they laugh over her efforts to forge new connections through food? A lump formed in her throat as she imagined their reactions, her vibrant spirit dimming against the high expectations she'd set for herself. Gritting her teeth, she resolved to brush aside the fear pulsating like a distant drumbeat and try. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each successful recipe, a flicker of joy began to blossom in her kitchen. But as Martha's vision slowly improved, a new and menacing storm approached. Jennifer's job loss cast a pall over their gatherings, shattering the laughter they had started to reclaim. The snacks, once a symbol of unity, now felt like fragile shards of glass, threatening to cut through any semblance of connection as tension thickened the air. Anxiety clawed at Martha's heart, the worry of losing this fragile unity leaving her breathless. As Martha prepared for yet another family gathering, a psychological battleground raged inside her. Could these simple meals hold the power to mend their fragile bonds, or would they become another reminder of how close they were to unraveling? The uncertainty loomed larger than ever, and with it came the agonizing thought. On this precarious path, would love alone be enough to bridge the widening chasm, if only for now? Martha stirred the vegetable medley, the vibrant colors vibrant against the backdrop of her dimly lit kitchen. Tonight was more than just another family dinner. It was a chance to share her newfound identity, the one that flourished within the caverns of her culinary adventures. Yet, each slice and chop felt like an act of desperation, a struggle to fortify connections that appeared ready to crumble. As she prepared her special quinoa and roasted vegetable dish, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the shiny kitchen faucet. The certainty that had infused her work was now shaking at its core. Would this meal resonate, or would it turn into another point of tension? The door chimed, and she felt a flutter of anxiety. As Emily bounded in, laughter bubbling over, Martha deftly hid her moment of doubt beneath layers of enthusiasm. "I made something special tonight, sweetheart," she said, forcing her voice to match the buoyancy of the moment. Emily's eyes lit up, but the moment of joy was swallowed whole as Jennifer stepped in, her expression a mixture of fatigue and irritation. The warmth from her earlier smile seemed to evaporate, leaving a cold silence. Martha's heart dropped. Couldn't they feel the joy mingling within the food? She had spent the afternoon carefully selecting ingredients, pouring love and hope into each dish. "Mom, I'm really not feeling up to a big dinner," Jennifer said, her voice heavy. "Can we just order pizza?" The suggestion landed like an avalanche in Martha's stomach. Though she wanted to shout that these meals were more than just food, they were her ties to them, to their past, to laughter she held back. Instead, she nodded slowly, forcing a smile. "Of course, dear. But just give this a try first, please," she managed, a trace of desperation lingering in her tone. Dinner proceeded with forced pleasantries, the food barely touched. Their conversation echoed with mundane topics, a cacophony of polite words hiding the tension festering underneath. Martha bit back sharp retorts she longed to unleash. Why couldn't they see how much this mattered to her? As she watched her family picking at their meals, she realized she was clinging to an illusion of connection built around these dinners. These once vibrant interactions felt hollow now, and she shuddered at the idea that perhaps she had built this bridge too precariously. Instead of creating a safe haven, the dinner table was now a battlefield of unmet expectations. When Jennifer retreated to the living room, Martha excused herself to the kitchen, the cacophony of knife hitting the cutting board reflecting her chaotic thoughts. What if she had been pursuing this culinary obsession for all the wrong reasons? Had she become blinded by the desire for validation from them, rather than the simpler joy of preparing meals? Cheering on Emily's presumed excitement, nurturing Jennifer's pain, as well as Nick's flustered fatherhood, seemed improbable. The shelves of her kitchen were filled with a variety of snacks and ingredients, yet ingredients for connection felt glaringly absent. Then, a spark of determination ignited within her. Instead of crumbling beneath the weight of family despair, what if she discovered another direction for her passion? Maybe her love for food could be shared in a variety of settings beyond just this tense table. The notion energized her as she recalled Emily's widened eyes when discussing eye health. She resolved then to bring a renewed focus to what her cooking could accomplish, not just for their physical health, but perhaps to rekindle the spirit that once animated their gatherings. Perhaps she could create an intergenerational cooking night, where everyone had a chance to participate, to feel connected through shared experiences of joy and creation. The concept spiraled in her mind, leading her to wonder if her desire for unity could transform into something greater, a collective approach toward communal meals rather than solitary ones. The avenues of connection were limitless, her excitement bubbling just below the surface as she thought of the new ways to involve her family. Just as Martha took a breath to calm her racing heart, the quiet lingered too heavily in the kitchen. She could feel the shadows creeping back, whispering fears of failure and disconnection. Her determination flickered precariously like a candle in the wind. But there was a question that loomed larger than her doubt. How far would she go to break through this barricade of despair and touch the souls of her family? The answer was waiting, unraveling its way into her heart, yet it required courageous steps into an unknown future. A loud crash from the living room broke the tension, drawing her attention. Curiosity piqued, she rushed toward the sound, heart pounding with unspoken fears. What new crisis had breached their already fragile evening? The next day dawned with a bright sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, illuminating the countertop cluttered with ingredients. Martha surveyed the scene, her heart fluttering with a mix of optimism and anxiety. Her daughters, still wrapped in their excitement from the night before, danced around the kitchen with an energy that both thrilled and intimidated her. This was the chance to reshape their connection through the very act she had long cherished. "Okay, everyone ready?" she called out, her voice tinged with enthusiasm. "Ready as we'll ever be," Jennifer replied, her hands brimming with sweet potatoes. As they gathered around, Martha felt her role shift from mere facilitator to a guiding force. She demonstrated how to slice the sweet potatoes thinly, her movements fluid and confident. The act of teaching ignited a fire in her, an affirmation of her capabilities beyond just being a mother. "Now, we're going to toss these with a little olive oil and some spices," she explained, savoring the instruction that felt empowering. Yet, in the same breath, the thought crept in, Would they truly absorb this knowledge, or would it slip away like so many moments had before? Can I try? Emily asked, stepping closer. Martha's heart swelled. Of course. Here, let me show you how to hold the knife. She guided Emily's hands in a teaching moment that echoed in her mind, offering her own self-doubt a defiant push. As the girls took turns leading the mini recipe sessions, Martha noticed a change in their focus. They were engaged, laughing, and leaning into the process. Cooking became less about the end result and more about creating together. The kitchen buzzed with creativity, and with every sizzling sound, Martha felt a shift in their dynamic, a shift that breathed life into the air previously burdened by unresolved tension. But beneath the laughter, a wave of worry washed over her. She still sensed that unresolved tension simmering in the background. Could these light moments really bridge the emotional gaps that had formed? What if a stray comment or mishap brought forth deeper wounds? Halfway through the session, while mixing the salsa, Jennifer jokingly teased, "Hey, Mom, you better not burn this one too." The jest struck a nerve. Martha's smile faltered as the specter of past failures loomed over her. To the girls, perhaps they were simply cooking, but to her, each slice, each stir was underscored by her internal battle, the pressure of balancing her past mistakes with the desire for renewed connection. "Let us make sure we don't rush," Martha found herself saying, her voice steadier than she felt. Cooking is about patience and care, just as relationships are imperfect, but built over time. The statement hung in the air, shifting the moment. She hadn't just addressed the cooking. She had laid bare a truth about their familial struggles, vulnerable yet hopeful. Martha caught Jennifer's eye, and for a brief moment, they shared unspoken acknowledgement of the tension they had both felt. Would this exchange be significant enough to spark the deeper discussions they had avoided? Martha pressed onward, guiding Emily in layering the baritone flavors of the salsa. Anxiety danced in her stomach. Perhaps this was the moment they would push past the mundane into the raw authenticity of their lives. Yet, she hesitated, unsure if now was the right time to breach those deeper waters. As the air filled with the scent of baking sweet potatoes and fresh salsa, a sense of clarity enveloped Martha. Wasn't this interactive process exactly what she desired to create, not just snacks, but an experience punctuated by open communication and resilience? The real challenge loomed large, harnessing this momentum towards meaningful dialogue about their emotional landscape, rather than letting it slip into another moment of frivolity. She felt the weight of that decision resting heavy on her shoulders. "After we eat, can we talk for a bit? About anything, really?" she ventured, heart pounding like a drum. Their laughter faltered momentarily as they exchanged glances. Yes, feelings simmered just below the surface, but would they engage? With that uncertain thread lingering in the air, a new resolve ignited within her. The kitchen wasn't just a backdrop. It was a catalyst, the true test of their growth and connection ready to unfold. What revelations would arise from this seemingly simple cooking venture? And perhaps more importantly, would they dare to confront the emotional ingredients that demanded inclusion in their family recipe? The sizzling of sweet potatoes in the oven melded beautifully with the vibrant chatter in the kitchen, yet beneath the surface of joviality, Martha felt an undercurrent of apprehension. The thought of opening up to her daughters about darker feelings, those that had become far too familiar, seemed daunting. She busied herself with stirring the salsa, each motion a feeble attempt to manage the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. As she leaned to add a pinch of salt, her thoughts flickered back to times long past when meals had been loud with laughter and filled with heartfelt exchange, rather than the guarded conversations that had since taken precedence. Nostalgia mingled with a flicker of determination. Today presented a rare chance, a pivot point that could alter her daughter's perception of her struggles and fears if only she could find the right words. "Can I pass this salsa to the table?" Jennifer's voice broke through her reverie. "Absolutely," Martha replied, grateful for the distraction but also aware that the moment of truth loomed. The act of serving would soon close the distance between playful meal prep and the serious conversation she so earnestly craved. Once the table was set, the warm colors of their creations danced invitingly under the overhead lights, softening the edges of her anxiety. She watched as Emily and Jennifer began to take their first bites, their faces lighting up with approval. The visceral joy she felt from their delight was paramount. Yet, as the deliciousness chewed through the tension, she realized it was time to tackle the other ingredient that remained unaddressed: intimacy of discussion. Before dessert, I wanted to share something, she initiated, heart racing anew. Both daughters paused, their forks hovering midair, an involuntary camaraderie reflected in their wide eyes. Remember when I told you about my friend Anna and her issues with family? Martha continued, eager to invite them into her world of struggle. I realized that I haven't been very open with my own challenges. I think it's important for us to talk about things that bother us, sometimes things that bother us. Emily echoed, voice laced with uncertainty. Yes, we've all experienced our share of frustrations and disappointments, haven't we? Martha pressed gently, squeezing the edge of the table to steady herself as she searched their expressions for understanding. Jennifer glanced at her sister, weighing the gravity of the moment. Mom, are you talking about the last few years? Yes, Martha admitted, feeling the weight of each word. I think we've been avoiding discussing things that matter to us. It's okay to feel angry or upset. It's okay to not always have everything together. Emily's brow furrowed, a flicker of fear mingled with curiosity. So, I can tell you how I feel too, right? Like even when I've felt, left out? Exactly, Martha encouraged, a rush of pride pouring through her. This is about supporting each other, sharing truths that can sometimes feel heavy. But together, those burdens can lighten. An almost imperceptible shift occurred within the room. The air thickened with revelations waiting to unfold, and Martha sensed that their exchange was moving towards something significant. Would they welcome the invitation? Would they dare to peel back the layers she longed to explore? As the silence deepened, Martha felt a cocktail of hope and apprehension brew inside her, a potent mix that mirrored the vibrant colors of their culinary feast. She and her daughters stood on the cusp of discovery, where love met vulnerability, and the prospect of connection was both exhilarating and terrifying. Can we talk about the times we've felt distanced from one another? Jennifer hesitantly posed, breaking the tension, as if a dam had burst open. Relief washed over Martha like hot water on cold skin, mixed with an awareness. This was only the beginning. They were stepping closer to honesty, and with it came the potential for healing. The moment was raw, ripe with possibilities, and she sensed their hearts opening as the conversation began budding into something real. What raw truths awaited the trio beneath the veil of their daily lives? And what other hidden emotions would be revealed as they began exploring the depths of their family connection? Martha steadied herself, absorbing the weight of Jennifer's words. A cascade of possibilities rushed through her mind, swirling like the steam rising from the oven. This was their opportunity to penetrate the unspoken barriers that had encroached on their lives. As she glanced at her daughters, she felt a fierce resolve sharpening inside her. This was more than a conversation. It was a transformative moment that could redefine their family bond. Let us do it, she said softly, a base of conviction beneath the tremor in her voice. Let us share our truths. She felt the gravity of her invitation, aware that each of them carried experiences that had shaped their connection. It wouldn't be easy, but she mulled over how her own honesty might invite theirs. Perhaps being vulnerable could foster a deep understanding and renewal. Jennifer lowered her fork, eyes brightening with a sense of liberation. Okay, she said slowly, as if testing the waters of bravery. Sometimes I feel like I have to compete for your attention. Martha blinked, her heart tightening as she absorbed the admission. This was the first ripple of honesty, and it struck a deep chord within her. You don't have to compete, sweetheart. I've often been so caught up in my own concerns that I might be neglected to notice your feelings. The kitchen, once filled with the delightful aromas of their meal, transformed into a sanctuary for revelation. Emily chimed in. I've sometimes felt like it's easier to talk to friends. You're my mom and I love you, but I don't want you to think I'm just complaining. Martha leaned in, her expression sincere. It's never complaining if it's about your feelings. You deserve to share those with me, and I want to listen. This was the foundation she longed to build. Honest communication that could bridge any age gap or generational divide. As the conversation deepened, Martha felt her own stories surfacing too. The shadows of her past struggles crept into the light, swirling around them like the scents from their evening meal. I've felt overwhelmed, like I'm losing pieces of myself," she admitted, the words tinged with vulnerability and strength. "But I want you both to know that being honest about everything will only help us connect better." Jennifer's brow softened, and she leaned forward, intrigued. "So it's okay if we talk about things that upset us? Like school or our circle of friends?" "It's not just okay, it's necessary," Martha affirmed, recognizing how important this was for their growth. In this intimate atmosphere, walls began to break down. Secrets that had been festering in silence emerged. Perspectives were exchanged, simply meeting in the middle. They were forging a new path toward understanding, one born from shared struggles instead of avoidance. Yet, as the truth flowed, Martha felt a tentative awareness this awakening would demand not just an openness of heart, but a rekindling of her own sense of self. Could she reconcile the insecurities she had carried like a shroud? She felt like she was juggling two roles, balancing between being a source of strength and confronting her own vulnerabilities. What if, Emily pondered, we started to share one thing each week that's been bothering us? Like a good and bad family moment? Martha felt a spark of excitement. That's brilliant. It can be our commitment to each other. The idea invigorated her so much that it replaced any apprehension she held. An unspoken question lingered in the air: what would they uncover next? As they anticipated the next time they would dare to dive so deep, Martha sensed a fundamental shift in her understanding of motherhood. It was about more than just guiding them. It was about growing together. The realization settled uncomfortably in her mind, the echo of a new cycle beginning. She was more than just a parent. She had her own journey of growth ahead. What will Martha discover about herself in the days to come, as her daughters challenge her to confront her own past? And how will this new commitment alter their family dynamics forever? Martha sat on the edge of her bed, the adrenaline from dinner still buzzing in her veins. The conversation had taken unexpected turns, revealing depths she hadn't anticipated. Emotions mixed in her chest, a cocktail of relief and apprehension. She grasped the gravity of what they'd initiated, the layers of vulnerability she had peeled back in the name of connection. Yet, the enormity of her daughters now possessing this insight felt equally daunting. Realization struck her. Opening up meant that she would have to revisit parts of her own life she had hoped to bury. This newfound openness wasn't merely a bridge to understanding her daughters. It was a mirror reflecting her own hidden struggles and dissatisfaction. How much had she truly shared with them? And how much had she avoided in her own self-reflection, dismissing her own past in favor of being their unwavering pillar of strength? She picked up her journal, the leather-bound cover worn and familiar. It had become her refuge in moments of doubt since she first put pencil to paper years ago. A few lines jotted during the week spun through her mind, moments where she had felt lost or overwhelmed. But documenting those feelings felt insufficient now. She required clarity, a deeper exploration of her own journey. As she wrote, thoughts poured out, unfiltered and raw. She described the morning routines that often felt like a race against time, the anxiety she faced while balancing responsibilities at work alongside her family. A wave of guilt crashed over her as she reflected on the countless times she had dismissed her daughter's needs, thinking they would not understand her struggles. As she scribbled furiously, it dawned on her that she had been so consumed by her sense of duty that she neglected the foundation that made them a family: vulnerability and authenticity. When did she forget that childhood was fleeting and that she needed to step back, just as much as her children needed to share? By prioritizing their emotional growth, she had inadvertently sequestered her own. The burden of perfection weighed heavily on her shoulders, and with it came the subsequent loneliness. Could she allow them to witness her imperfections? With each entry in her journal, she reconciled her past with her present, realizing that sharing these nuances could pave the way for healing not just within herself, but for her daughters. She began to formulate a plan. What if her lessons didn't come solely from verbal conversations, but through real-life examples of facing adversity? The role of being a role model now extended beyond achievements to embracing struggles. Martha would showcase her growth by allowing her daughters into her journey, inviting them into moments of vulnerability. Together, they could navigate encounters with fear and uncertainty, each step revealing how resilient they were as individuals and as a family unit. The next family discussion was a chance for bold authenticity, She could lay bare her aspirations and regrets, igniting candid exchanges that encouraged them to continue sharing. This delicate balance of giving and receiving could transform their weekly commitments into powerful sessions of growth. As she closed her journal, a quiet excitement buzzed through her. Committing to this path meant facing fears, but also granting permission for vulnerability to flourish within their family. It was a precious gift, one that promised new insights and unexpected connections. Martha understood that the journey ahead wouldn't always be smooth. She felt a surge of determination, knowing that the goal was not to become perfect, but to unite through imperfections. And just then, a lingering thought surfaced. How would her daughters respond when she colored outside the lines of the expected mother role? What would happen when Martha shared her battle scars? And how would that shape their understanding of resilience? These revelations waited on the precipice, ready to emerge with the next conversation, reminding her that family bonds are formed in the shared struggle of journeys. Taken together, the sun filtered through the curtains, painting stripes of light across Martha's living room. Sitting at the small round table where they had shared laughter and tears, she mentally prepared for the family discussion. It was an opportunity for connection, a chance to create an atmosphere where authenticity could thrive. Her hands shook slightly as she poured herbal tea, an intimate drink, one devoid of the rush of caffeine, symbolizing contemplation and openness. She took a deep breath, listening to the distant sounds of her daughters in the other room. Their energy felt electric, weaving through the walls, igniting her nervous anticipation. Just hours ago, she had crafted a few notes about her own experiences, intricate and reflective journeys she felt would resonate with them. Each stroke of her pen had felt both liberating and terrifying. She was not merely recounting events, but sharing parts of herself that she had long buried. An inexplicable wave of doubt rose within her. What if her daughters did not relate? What if they dismissed her experiences as irrelevant? The thought was suffocating. Martha shook her head, forcing herself to dispel the anxiety that clung to her thoughts. Every moment spent concealing her truth only contributed to the walls between them. She needed to embrace the very vulnerability she sought to instill in them. When her daughters walked in, the very essence of youthful exuberance, Martha nearly lost her nerve. They settled at the table, curious glances exchanged, sensing the charged atmosphere. "Hey, what is this about?" Emma, her eldest, asked, a hint of skepticism lacing her voice. "It's something I want to talk about, something important," Martha replied, feeling her heart race. "I've been reflecting a lot on my life and how it has shaped me. I think it's time for us to share more openly." Her daughters leaned in, intrigued. Martha noticed the subtle shift in their demeanor, the way they seemed to lower their guard. Their curiosity was palpable, pushing her forward despite the unease that tingled at the back of her mind. She began recounting moments from her teenage years, the pressure of expectations, the mistakes she had made, and the imperfections she had fought to hide. Powerful words flowed, conjuring images of struggles that felt achingly relevant. The more she shared, the more she felt the cracks in her facade begin to widen. As she delved into a particularly painful moment of failure in her early career, she noticed tears in the corners of Emma's eyes. It was a moment of profound connection, a testament to the reciprocity she had needed to nurture. The floodgates of understanding began to open, intertwining her narrative with theirs. "I've failed too, you know," Emma confessed, her voice breaking the silence. "Sometimes, I think everyone sees me as perfect. It's exhausting." Martha's heart swelled. This was the authentic exchange she had envisioned, a two-way street where vulnerability was met with compassion. As the conversation flowed, her middle daughter, Sarah, began to narrate her own fears, her thoughts mirroring Martha's past struggles. With each revelation shared, Martha felt lighter, freeing herself from the isolation of maintaining a stoic facade. They laughed, cried, and embraced the contrasting emotions that enveloped their discussions. But amidst the breakthroughs, an unsettling question nagged at her. How would this newfound openness manifest in their day-to-day lives? Would the transparency she sought to foster translate into genuine change? And what would happen when the weight of reality pressed back upon them, challenging the comfort they had created in this moment? With that thought swirling in her mind, Martha realized their journey homeward was only beginning. Stepping into the depths of their truths was one thing, but how each of them would cope with the repercussions remained to be seen. The firm resolve she had felt began to echo. Would they grow from this newfound understanding, or would it unravel under the pressures of their lives? As the discussion came to a close, Martha understood that facing these questions would demand as much courage from her daughters as it had from her. Martha couldn't shake a lingering uncertainty. The family bond seemed strengthened, but would they persist in their commitment to remaining open and vulnerable? The dinner table, once a mere site for meals, had transformed into an arena of growth and expression. But could they sustain this change amidst the chaos of life? The next day loomed, and she knew they would face tests that required more authenticity than they had yet shared. Would they be ready to confront the challenges that lay ahead? She couldn't help but wonder. What walls would they need to face next? Martha woke the next morning, the sunlight framing her family table with renewed potential. The intimate conversations shared with her daughters lingered in her mind, a tapestry woven with vulnerability that she hoped would extend beyond that singular evening. As she moved through her day, she felt a blend of excitement and apprehension. Could the openness they had achieved hold firm in the face of daily life? With that thought propelling her forward, Martha decided to formalize the commitment she had proposed to share one thing they felt good about and one thing weighing on them every week. Crafting a simple yet meaningful ritual, she felt empowered, knowing it would serve as a steadying practice for both her and her daughters. That evening, she gathered them around the table, the air buzzing with anticipation. "You remember our plan?" she asked, excitement flickering in her voice. Jennifer nodded, a glint of determination sparkling in her eyes. "I went through my week, and I actually found I thought about our conversation a lot." Martha felt a surge of pride. It was happening. This idea intended to foster openness had already sprouted enthusiasm in her daughters. "Great. Why don't you start?" she encouraged, a gentle smile anchoring her voice. Jennifer inhaled deeply, her hands clasped tightly around her mug. "Honestly, I felt good about finishing my assignments on time this week. But I've also been feeling a lot of pressure about what's next college applications." Martha absorbed her words, feeling the weight of her daughter's truth wash over the table. These were the threads of identity and aspirations that were now unraveling, illuminating areas that had often been kept hidden. "Those pressures can feel huge," Martha replied, keenly aware of how her own experiences mirrored her daughter's. "But you're doing the right thing by opening up about it." As the evening unfolded, Emily shared her own success and struggles, how juggling friends and school at times felt overwhelming, but how she too felt pride in her role on the debate team. In that beautiful exchange, Martha felt validation stitch itself into the fabric of their conversation. It was no longer about her insecurities overshadowing their needs. They were sharing in a way that lit the darkness with understanding. But as her daughters spoke, apprehension prickled at Martha. This practice could shine a light on their lives, but it also meant that rough conversations awaited. Challenges loomed large, and she pondered whether their new habit would withstand those inevitable storms. The week continued, each dinner a sacred ground for expression. One evening, Martha found herself left momentarily speechless as Jennifer spoke about an upsetting interaction with friends, where she had felt criticized for her ambitions. Her heart ached with empathy, echoing the walls that she herself had once felt against her own aspirations. "I want you to know I've been there too, sweetie. I've faced doubters in my life." Martha spoke, the voice of a seasoned warrior now steadied from within. "But heed this. Those voices do not represent your worth." Jennifer's gaze softened, the connection threading deeper into their hearts. Yet, the universe has a way of testing those vows of honesty. The stresses of the week began to crack the tranquil surface they had created. The next family meal was intended to be a celebration, but Martha sensed an undercurrent of tension as Jennifer's stressful week spiraled. It was as if the very openness they cultivated became a pressure to live up to, the risk of failure creeping back into their journey. "Are we really going to talk about our aversions today?" Martha asked cautiously as the tension thickened like a cloud in the air. Jennifer's shoulders stiffened, colors fading from her previously vivacious demeanor. "I don't want to bring it up. It's too much drama." Martha inhaled slowly, reminding herself this was the real test, the moments of confrontation rather than comfort. What had been hand in hand with open discussions was learning to navigate choppy waters. This time, They were being asked to expand their comfort zones. I understand. But talking about difficult things is just as important as the good stuff, she replied carefully, the resolve in her voice aimed at nurturing rather than pushing boundaries. We're in this together. As dinner continued, Martha tentatively guided the conversation back with compassion, reminding herself that decisions and awareness would collide. She leaned into her daughter's desires, but also challenged the shadows of avoidance hovering above them. Remember, she said, vulnerability is a two-way street. Sharing means taking risks, but also facilitating trust. In that moment, Martha recognized the duality in their journey, each of them navigating their own emotional landscape, combining struggles and victories. Each of them would require empathy and appreciation. With every passing meal shared, Martha felt richer in knowledge as they began dismantling the walls of fear. It was a breakthrough they were collectively creating, a shared responsibility fueling their transformation. As Martha moved through each day afterward, she felt fragments of liberation emerging with every open discussion, the insights breaking chains and igniting deeper understanding. It was more than just family gatherings. It became a conscious practice they nurtured. In the weeks that followed, the threads of connection were tested but also strengthened. When Jennifer faced challenges in school, she would turn to Martha, not as a distant figure, but as an ally. The concept of sharing burdens evolved, and Martha found that in giving her daughters space for expression, she, too, started freeing herself. A casual evening turned into a planned family outing, where fun transformed to connection as they dove into laughter, memories interwoven with their challenges. The kitchen cafe they visited acted as a backdrop for new experiences. Food meant mutual care, and discussions about feelings found their place amidst joyful bites. It was during this adventure that Martha felt a profound shift. She was no longer standing as a mere caregiver, but rather, she emerged as part of an evolving family unit. Institutional expectations dissipated, leaving room for authenticity to fill the gaping void. And yet, amidst her triumphs and growth, a weight rested within her. As she navigated the complexities of motherhood, another question beckoned her: how would she continue embracing vulnerability while ensuring it nurtured growth for her daughters? Martha recognized an overarching truth. Vulnerability is not merely about opening up. It is a commitment to growth and an unyielding act of bravery. In her evolution, she understood that every heart she touched allowed room for healing. The challenge wasn't just in their dining room or in their shared kitchen. It lay beneath the surface, inviting them to dive deeper. Every conversation was an opportunity to fortify their bond, and every struggle was a stepping stone toward profound transformation. In the backdrop of their collective journey, Martha began to draft new aspirations for herself, ones that echoed her concerns but were now ripe for confrontation. Exploring her past, nurturing her passions, and embracing new facets of identity became entwined with the narrative of the present. She felt liberated, solidly committed to forging a family culture rich in compassion and exploration. As she transformed, Martha discovered the vibrant possibilities of life. A world awaited her, ready to be explored deeply, where even shadows offered opportunities for discovery. And as the days unfurled, Martha embarked on this promising path, confident that the connections woven with her daughters would continue to yield fruit, a reflection of the resilience that thrives within vulnerability, forging a true legacy of love. This was merely the beginning of their journey together, each meal lasting longer than the last, binding them together amidst the layers of complexity, all driven forward by a shared desire to grow together. But even so, the echo of her thoughts remained, crackling at the edges of her mind. What new adventures lay ahead, and what truths still needed to be unearthed in the dawning light of a new relationship. A new chapter awaited them, and the courage to face it was already woven into the fabric of their family journey. Now, before you leave, take a moment to support this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us know you're with us. Comment your reactions and theories about this surprising conclusion, sharing what you resonated with most. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartfelt resolution. Don't wait even one more second to spread the inspiration. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel. Through these actions, let us grow together.